Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar about bridging the gap between construction closeouts and facilities. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ann Cosgrove, the editor-in-chief of Facility Executive Magazine, and the webinar is presented by ARC Facilities. Before we get started, I'll cover a few housekeeping items. Please note the control panel on your screen. This is where you can submit questions in the question box. You can send in your questions at any time, and they will be addressed by your speaker after the presentation. Also, please note the orange arrow on the left side of that control panel. Clicking on that will either expand or collapse it, so please be sure it's expanded so you can access the question box. Also, if at any time you experience a technical difficulty or have a non-content related question, you can send a message to us in that question section and someone on our team will answer you privately. Lastly, if you're interested in continuing education credits, you'll receive a certificate of attendance in an email from Facility Executive after this webinar, and you can report that CEU to your association. Now we'll move forward and I'll introduce your speaker, David Trask. David is a national director at ARC Facilities, and he's worked with hundreds of customers across the United States, handling implementations and advising facilities teams on productivity tools to lower costs and mitigate their risk. He is part of the IFMA Education Committee and is a presenter at numerous associations and conferences across the nation with a focus on helping organizations leverage innovative technology to drive efficiency. So we're looking forward to a great talk from David today, and of course, please do send in your questions, and he will be happy to address them at the end. So here we go. Hi, David. Welcome.
Hi, Ann. Thank you so much, and thank you, everybody, for attending today. What we're going to talk about is the challenge with getting closeout packages in your facilities team when you get those, and that delay and that's caused by, you're basically managing that building blind. But we're going to talk about some stuff that you can speed that process up. But let's start by taking a look at what we see in almost every building today. So the fundamentals are 65% of buildings still keep their building information in paper. You've got rolls of drawings, you've got plan rooms, you've got some of them tucked behind your desk, you've got them in the engineering department. They're all over the place. Well, each drawing, again, represents a project in your building. So some of your buildings may have hundreds of rolls. Some of them may have dozens of rolls. Each one of those, I kind of look at it like a puzzle. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a little while. But also 86% of facilities say they don't have access to the information to respond when something goes sideways. So look at that picture. Your water leaks, you've got equipment going down, you've got, especially with today with COVID, you've got air quality issues that come up, and that's directly related to AHUs, and you've got RTUs going down, and you've got all this different stuff that's related to air quality. So it's just absolutely critical that you maintain those and keep that up and running as well. But 72% of buildings are over 20 years old, and 1 in 3 is over 50 years old. What that means to me, and it should mean to you, is a lot of changes. So you've got a lot of those rolls like you see off to the left there. A lot of the drawings associated with my building are all over the place, and they're all in these types of rolls. So we're going to address what you can see, or what you're traditionally seeing with construction project closeouts, all the way through how you can manage those drawings moving forward, and you should have expectations to receive them moving forward. So let's jump in. So your buildings are constantly changing. Like I said earlier, renovations happen year over year. You've got all these different things that are happening on your building. I oftentimes refer to that as like your building's a big puzzle. So you've got 100 different renovations that have happened on your building over the years, and it's like 100 different puzzle pieces. Each one represents a role. Well, now you just threw those drawings on the floor, those puzzle pieces on the floor. Which one touched the third floor of your building? You've got 5, 10, 20 renovations that have touched that floor. Well, how do you know which one's the most recent? Which role is it? How do you find that information to manage your building today, right now, when something's going sideways? Or do you have an active construction project on that floor right now? So they're renovating some of the stuff. So even the drawings that you have aren't going to be accurate in a week, 2 weeks, a month. It's a problem. So you've got all these different puzzle pieces, and how do you know which one's the most recent? We're going to jump in and show you some of that too. But here's a big problem: is how do you bridge that gap between old stuff, your old drawing sets, your old institutional knowledge of what's happened in your buildings, with those new projects that are happening in your building. You've replaced equipment, like you see on the right-hand side here. You've got some new equipment. Well, say you've got new equipment and you haven't even received the closeout package for that project that installed that equipment. What do? You're Googling. You don't have even your electrical drawings typically for a month, 2 months, 3 months until that project closeout gets to you. And sometimes it's 6 months or longer. Well, what do? You're Googling. Again, your team is blind, managing your building, fixing stuff that goes sideways on that piece of equipment. If it's not running, it's brand new. Things happen. So we're going to jump in and look at what that looks like here. And that is, look at all of these drawings. Look at all of these. Each one of those cubbies could be a building of yours. And look at that. Look down the line to the right there. Some of those are jam-packed. Like I said earlier, you've got all these different drawing sets, all these different roles that represent changes on your building. Well, which one is, again, the most recent? Does anybody on your team know which one's the most recent? You've got some old Mylars. You've got some old blue lines stuck in there. If you look at the bottom there, some old blue lines poking out there. Well, those are really old drawing sets. So you know that those are probably the really old stuff. Well, where's the most recent one? This is a problem every single place I go. Every conversation I have at conferences around the country is, I ask everybody, raise your hand if you got a plan room that looks like this. Every single person raises their hand. It may not be to this scale. It may be it's half this. Maybe these are just the old drawing sets. But everybody's got one of these types of plan rooms. And even if you don't have a plan room, there are rolls of drawings behind your desk or in the engineering department that they use. This is a problem. So the reality is, many people say that they're getting it's taking 6+ months before they receive that closeout package. So what that means to you is you're operating your building for 6 months, typically blind. Again, you don't have your O&Ms. You don't have your drawing sets. Well, it means you're operating that without correct documentation. You don't know. You're blind. You don't know what's behind those walls in most cases. And facilities teams are researching these O&Ms on Google searches, or they're going to they're going to the website for the particular manufacturer. Well, the next renovation may start before you've even got your last closeout package. I've got clients that are they change a building floor. A couple of my manufacturing clients change building floors, it seems like every couple of months. And they'll make a change before the current renovation's even done. It happens. It happens all the time. I hear horror stories of, things getting lost in translation, even from project to project. Well, let's take a look at some of the common facilities challenges. Not having a process in place to track those active construction projects. Think about how many projects you've got coming on. You've got 15, 10, 5, doesn't matter. You've got all of these different projects, and all of that documentation associated with your building is traditionally in the hands of your GC, your architect. You don't have full visibility to what's going on. You get a plan set here, you get a plan set there with different changes, or you may be added to the distribution, but you don't have full transparency in many cases to everything that's going on during those active construction documents. So that means, again, you're blind. Also, current building plans information is typically unorganized. Remember that plan room. You've got all those different drawing sets. Now you've got some new stuff that's in process too, or you've got some that have just been handed over. Well, those documents that were just handed over from your GC or your architect now just went where? Did they come to the facilities department? Did they go to your design construction team within your organization? Do they match? If one set goes to design construction, one set goes to the facilities department, are they the same? You got to really look at how you marry that stuff up with your current drawings that you have that are for the existing parts of your building. And then how do you marry that up? But also, no system in place to ensure you have access to the building plans right now. You've got something going on in your building today, and you don't have that closeout package. What do? You go out there and try and figure it out. Well, you're blind. Again, you don't know what's going on in your building. You don't know if the electrical panels are accurate. You don't know if they've rerouted plumbing. You don't have access to that stuff. That's a problem. You're in facilities and you're doing your job every day and you're doing the best you can, but this is hamstringing you. Let's take a look at how that can be taken care of here. So tracking active construction documents, giving your team, you and your team, full visibility to what's going on in your building, what's changing in your building live, in real time. So when something's changing in your building, even though you don't have the full closeout package, you can see drawings for your building. You can see information about that project that's going on. So single source of truth, access to accurate information from the get-go, from the start of the project through the construction process to the end. You have full visibility to all of those projects through the entire duration. That's what you should be requiring. And again, it's single source of truth. Everybody's looking at the same thing. So you're looking at the same documents as your GC, the trades, during that entire construction phase. And then everybody's looking at the same thing at the end too. So plans, specs, RFIs, discrepancy logs showing discrepancies in drawings, in the different parts of your project, having access, full exposure to what's going on from day one. That's what you should have. And again, single source. So access to all those changes, what that looks like for active construction is, so imagine these are all your different projects here. And again, access to it wherever the heck you are, on your phone, on your tablet, on your desktop. You can see there's multiple different projects here. Well, being able to click on a project and see the plans, the specs, the RFIs, all the discrepancies that have happened on this particular project in a log format. So you have full exposure. Doesn't matter. This is the Plaza project. Full exposure to any of them here. And then you've got a full current set of drawings. So this is all of the most recent drawings during your construction project for just the Plaza. And all of those drawings are hyperlinked to the individual drawings. And then you've also got all your specs for this project. Changes would be updated in here with the most recent change. So all of these are current during construction. All of them accessible. You have full exposure. The RFI log, again, by number and the description, all of them are in here so that you can click on them and see that particular RFI. And you can see all the information associated with that RFI, the response, and all of the communication thereof. And then you also have the discrepancy log showing what that file name was, what the detail callout was, where it is, all the changes that have happened, all the discrepancies that are just missing and you're waiting for information. All of that's logged here, and you have full access to that information for every single project. And again, project to project. So again, this gives you visibility during construction. So you have full visibility as the owner, not just the GC or the architect or just what they want you to see. You have full control. You have full visibility to everything that's changed on your building. Okay, that's huge. It gives you that visibility, but now you can also call out things that you see that aren't necessarily what they were supposed to be. But also you have no need to wait. When the project's closing, there's no waiting for documents. So think about the last few projects that you've had. You've waited for 3 months, 6 months, a year. I've heard horror stories of some of the larger projects where people are waiting a year for closeout packages, a year to get drawings, the most recent drawings at the end of the project. And I asked why. Why don't you have full exposure to those drawings? And the answer is they never knew that this was even a possibility. They're relying on what's given to them at the end of the project, and they're waiting, and there's delays and delays and delays. This puts you and your team in control. You can now see and have access to these drawings from day one, like I mentioned, because you're not waiting on documents from your subs. You're not waiting on documents from anybody. You have the exposure through the entire process to the most recent stuff, all of them. But the right technology is the key. So think about all the different projects that you have, and again, Today's technology allows you to have all of that stuff structured and accessible. All of your team can access this stuff through the entire process, but now you can also share that information before the keys are handed over for that project. You'll operate your building from day one. When you hit the ground running, you can see all the information about that change on your building. That's key. So let's take a look at what that instant access to that information looks like. So you've got a closeout package here. Remember, I was showing you during construction, accessing all of that information during construction. Well, at the end, now you have all of the closeouts instantly. So think of this as you're building that closeout package through the entire duration of that project. And at the end, it's basically done. A few weeks and you're done, instead of waiting months and months and months. I talked to a guy at a conference the other day, and he was this last week, and he told me that he was waiting over a year. Over a year. Most of his warranties had already expired or were coming up on expiration by the time he got the closeout package. That's crazy. That's nuts. Having access to the closeout shouldn't take months. It should take weeks. You're waiting 6 months for a closeout package. Ask yourself why. And then think about the last time something, in the meantime of you getting that closeout package, something happened, something broke. You know, brand new equipment, brand new everything in this building. Okay, if it's a brand new construction project of a brand new building, that means you have a brand new building and things are going to go, they just break. Things happen. You know, none of this equipment, none of that has been occupied before. You're going to find stuff. Now you have access to all of that information, again, through the duration of the construction project, and now your closeout package is weeks out instead of months, years. All of that information. So all of your closeouts are right here again. Now you have your as-built, the most recent set of closeout as-built at the end of the project. You've got all your O&Ms are in here in a log format. All of your warranties are in here, start and end dates, other documents associated with that closeout. They're all right here. And again, this is a upgrade, but every one of your closeout packages is being built during construction. Here you go. At the end of the project, it's done. You've also got all your drawings here. So think about this as your as-built. Here's all of your drawings, your closeout as-built for that project, most recent drawings, all of them in one spot, accessible. You've also got O&Ms. You've got all your warranties. All of these are here. And you look at your start date for your warranty. Click on it, and it'll take you right to your warranty. You've got the actual warranty here. You click on a warranty, here it is. Everything is right here. Now your team has access to this closeout package, and it's done. Done. Your team hits the ground running, live, with all the documents to manage that building. And then again, you've got all of the drawings in a folder format here too, which is all the stuff that I showed you before. All of it's tied in here. So you've got your other documents for part of that closeout package, even your permits and submittals, and everything is right here. So again, this is your historical closeout for that project. And you're talking weeks, not months, not a year, weeks, and you've got it done. So what this does for your team, by getting those faster, improves service levels. When you take occupancy of that brand new building, your team gets a phone call. They can see what's going on and be able to improve service on those tenants, improve those responses to your team or to the team who's occupying that building. You can increase productivity. Your team can now go right to the documents, find what the heck they need to do their job to fix it, to find out what air filter goes in that piece of equipment. It's all right there. Life safety. Think about if something's going sideways in the building, it's a gas leak, a water leak, whatever. You can react faster because, again, you have that closeout, and that's part of your emergency response too. Your life safety drawings are all right there. They're all in one spot, faster. The goal here is that you don't have to wait. Your team is responding to something when it's going, whether it's equipment related, whether it's an emergency related. You guys can respond faster and intelligently. You're not, again, like I said earlier, if you don't have the closeout package at the end of a project, you're blind. You don't know the building. You don't know the ins and outs of what that change was on those buildings. You know the basics, But now you're not just going out on the floor trying to figure it out. You actually have information to help you make educated decisions. And that's what we're talking about here, is being able to react faster. It does nothing but drive me crazy to think of teams trying to figure out stuff on the fly in the field blind. It's just unacceptable, and you shouldn't accept that either. So let's take a look at here. So organizing current building plans and information is another whole side of this too. So think about it. Remember all that those plans that I showed you earlier? Well, that's what this is. And again, look familiar? You may have all of these. You may have a ton of these. You may have 15 closets over all your different buildings that look like this. You may have plan rooms all over the place. You may have rolls of plans all over the place. You may have just documents all over. Well, ask yourself why. Well, now you've got 15 projects that are just going to mean another roll that's crammed into those cubbies or into that box or it's hanging on those stick files. Well, how do you find stuff? So you've got changes that have happened on the third floor. Well, what about you've got a project coming up that's on the second floor and the fifth floor? Which drawings do you grab? I was just talking to an architect and also an engineering firm at a conference just a few weeks ago in Orlando, and they said that they spent days in rooms like this. Days. Some of them, bigger projects are spending a week in these. Find the most recent drawings, or trying to find the drawings for a particular building and a particular floor for a project they've got coming up. That goes away. I'm going to show you how you can share that information, and now all that historical information for all the changes in your building, every single one of them is now in one spot, including the next projects that you have and the next ones after that. All of them are in one spot, and everybody's looking at the most recent stuff. Well, a lot of people have, again, this plan room or a plan room that looks like this, or they've got a plan room and this. This is a share drive. This is a box account someplace. All the drawings are all over the place. They're not named right. They're not by date. They're not by building. They're not sorted. So this is just as bad as the paper plan room that I just showed right here. This is no different. I can't find anything on either one of these. So what happens is I'm blind. Again, I just go and try and figure it out. Well, handing over something like this digitally to your architect, to your engineering firm, is no different than handing them a bunch of plans that are in paper. If it's not organized and they can't find stuff, that means things can be missed. So think about, again, handing all the historical drawings for all of your buildings, or a building that somebody's going to work on because you've got to change. You've got a big project coming up. You're doing a major upgrade to a building, and it's impacting the third floor, fourth floor, and fifth floors. Instead of them digging and trying to figure it out, they can access specifically the drawing sets that touch those floors and those floors alone. All of those drawings, not sorting through all this stuff. Or here's the third scenario here. They call Carl. Carl's been there since that building was built. Carl knows all the drawings. He knows all the projects that touch that building. But here's the problem. Carl doesn't remember. His memory is not what it used to be. Carl doesn't remember the two projects that happened that were smaller that did impact the plumbing that he just forgot about. So now what? What that means in many cases, if you don't hand them the most recent drawings or all the drawing sets that touch those floors, or get that out of Carl's head, you've got the potential to have unforeseen condition change orders. Let me repeat that. Unforeseen condition change orders. That means you didn't give them drawings to show that there were changes on that particular building, on those particular floors, and now you potentially could be paying change orders because they didn't have the drawings that showed that plumbing moved, to another wall, or that there's even a wall there that didn't used to be there, whatever. That means your architect and your trades and your engineering firm didn't have those drawings. So they're going to charge you change orders whenever they find stuff that you didn't give them the current documents or any of the documents that showed that change. So I've heard horror stories of people that are writing in writing into their project budgets 10, 5, 10, 20, up to 30% additional funds in their budget to pay for change orders, to pay for some of these unforeseen change orders. And don't get me wrong, some things are going to happen. I mean, it just happens. That's what happens in projects. But if this saves you time, it's also going to save you money. So you want to mitigate some of those potential unforeseen change orders and really put the most recent and all that historical information in the hands of your GC, of your architect, of those trades, so that they know what's behind those walls before they start hitting it with a sledgehammer. I've seen this over and over and over again, and it saves time, and it potentially saves, again, some of those unforeseen change orders. But here again is what I was saying earlier. 65% of buildings in the U.S. still keep this in paper format, and it's building off of that. I'm your printer, and so okay, we're the biggest printer in the country of blueprints, and I'm sitting here saying that every drawing set that we print for you at the end of the project is being piled into these drawers, into these cubbies. You've got to mitigate that and eliminate some of this paper and put it all in one spot, so now your team can access that information when it counts. Your facilities team is not tied to a desk. They're in the field. They're constantly going from building to building to building. So they're not going to remember every single part of every single building if you've got 20, 30, 40 buildings, 10 buildings. Goodness. It's hard to remember all the different historical things that have changed. Well, it's even harder for a person. Carl's not there anymore. Carl just retired. So now who do you call? Well, now you start digging through this stuff. You start trying to find drawings. You're spending hours trying to find stuff in just your day-to-day facilities world. Well, again, you've got all of this stuff, again, on share drives, no different than the plan sets before. But now you can mitigate that by putting all of the information. So think about all those paper plans that you've got. Think about all those construction projects that you've got during construction, and then those closeouts. Now you can have it all spot. It's all in a single place where everybody can access that information all in one spot. So again, you click on a building, goes to your as-built list view, as-built map view. That's all your drawings, historical and your new projects. When they're done, they're all in here. All the shutoffs are mapped out now. All of the shutoffs, including all the historical stuff. Equipment maps. All the equipment can be mapped out, showing locations where they are. Also, what type of equipment is it? You go to all of your drawing sets. Every single drawing set is in one spot. It's also mapped out, showing where those changes touched year over year. Look at those boxes and those highlighted colors. Each one of those represents a change that's happened on those buildings, a project. And now they're all mapped out, showing where those renovations touched year over year. Not just where they touched, what was the date of the project, what was the project name, and then every drawing associated with that particular project is now linked to that color-coded area. So you can see in any particular area, there were 3 drawing sets that touched that, including your base drawings and every change that's happened, which in some cases would be 2, 3 different plan sets, touch those. You're not digging through hundreds and hundreds of rolls. You're not digging through files on your shared drive trying to figure out which ones go to particular floors. This is mapped out floor to floor, showing which drawing sets touch what floor. Can you do that now? I've yet to hear anybody say, yeah, I know exactly where every drawing set is. Well, great. Even the folks that think they do, then they forget about 2, 3, 4 projects that happened prior to them even starting with the company. Or Carl just retired and he remembered all those drawings, but the new people don't. Everybody should be looking at the most recent drawings and all the historical drawings associated with your building, all in one spot. That's what this shows. Also, all those shutoffs, gas, water, power. Imagine being able to click on one of these pins and opening up these color-coded pins and seeing the electrical panel. That's what you can do. Seeing the electrical panel, seeing the panel schedule, seeing the panel name, all searchable. Also, the water shutoff here. Imagine clicking on a water shutoff, having it open up, showing photos of the actual valves, the tag, also showing a map, showing the zone, what's it shut off. What does that valve serve? I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to people where I'm walking down a hallway and I'm looking up and there's these blue dots on the ceiling, or red dots on the ceiling, or a yellow dot on the ceiling. And I'll ask them, what's that dot? Oh, I think it's water. So you don't know? Well, what's that serve? I have no idea. Who put that up there? Oh, I don't know, a guy 20 years ago. Well, if you don't know what's up there, if you got a pipe burst in that hallway, does that serve that particular hallway? Does it serve behind you, next room, down the hallway? What does it serve? You know, people are turning off valve after valve after valve, trying to figure out what shuts off what. Now imagine being able to see every isolation valve, gas, water, power, every one of them throughout your entire building, floor to floor. That's what this means. You can do a site walk. That's what our team does. We actually go on site, map out every shutoff in the building, every piece of equipment in the building, all of them. Now your team is not blind, and that's current conditions, showing where this is today, right now. But then also being able to build off that. You pop a ceiling tile and you find a new shutoff, great. Pull your phone out of your pocket like you see right here, take a picture of it, tag it, and as soon as you hit save, everybody on your team sees it. And you can say, serves the bathroom, men's and women's room on the 3rd floor, whatever. And you can put whatever additional information you want in there. All of it per piece, every single floor. That's what you can do today. And if you move stuff, if you change stuff in the building, you can update it on the fly. Literally, update it immediately. You move something, change it, move it, that fast. Also, have access to all your emergency information. Imagine having all of your emergency equipment, all your fire extinguisher locations, all your defibrillators, exit signs, your emergency lights, all of that. Now think about all your mechanical equipment. You go up on a roof, you've got RTUs, you've got mini split condensers up there, you've got exhaust fans. You go into a mechanical room, there's 5 pumps in there, there's an AHU, there's a bunch of jockey pumps, there may be a sump pump in the floor. All of that information is also tagged and QR coded, knowing exactly where that information is, and everything's in one spot. That's what you're talking about here. But also, you have an updated change, one of those projects, and you change out some equipment in that room. Being able to update that with the current information, the current equipment that's been updated in that room on the fly, so everybody can access that. Now, what I'm showing you here, imagine handing this over to your architect prior to the project starting. So what do you see here? All the drawing sets for the building, all the equipment locations for the building, all the shutoff locations for the building. That is the trifecta of dreams, what every architect says that, and every engineering firm that I talk to says they wish they had at the beginning of a project. It saves them so much time. So imagine you hand this over to them, and now every future project that you have is also added in here at the end. Your closeout packages are immediately added. It's a new color-coded set of plans, new equipment's mapped out. All of that information is here, and now your facilities team is also looking at the current information as your building has changed year over year, project over project. Everybody is looking at the same stuff. That's key. That I look at that as kind of like the golden egg. Everybody wants that. Everybody knows that you need it. Here it is. Your entire facilities team is looking at this. Your entire design construction team in-house at the owner level is looking at this. Your GC can look at this. Your architect can look at this. All of your facilities team, your emergency management team is looking at this. And they can see everything. It's transparency for your building, all in one spot. And again, all that equipment is all mapped out, and everybody can see that information, where it is, photos of the equipment, serial numbers, model numbers, install dates, warranty information, O&Ms tied back to the equipment. All of it's right here. And also mapped out showing where it is. So the new guy who doesn't know your building, and you've got a 20-story building, and he doesn't know where the mechanical room is, he doesn't know where pump number 2 is that you see here, he can click on that, click on a location map, and it zooms right to where it is on that floor. Seconds from his phone. And he goes from building to building to building doing the exact same thing. Full transparency, and everybody's looking at all the most recent stuff for your building. That gives you time back. That also potentially, like I said earlier, gets you potentially saving some money on potential change orders. All of that information gives you full transparency, not only during construction, but through the end closeout process to your legacy information's all married up, all in one spot. Everybody's on the same page. It's easy. It's not hard. So even though you've tracked the active construction projects and the current building plans and information, do you have instant access to it? So think about today. This guy right here is on a roof. He's going over to work on that particular unit. He's working on that condenser. You know, he's got something, he's got his controls there, or I'm sorry, his gauges there. He's going to go up and he's going to work on this particular unit. Does he have access to all that information I just showed on his phone on the roof today? If not, ask yourself, why not? I go, as Ann mentioned, I do a lot of conferences around the country. I just did IFMA World Workplace a few weeks ago, and I had an education session. I was talking to a bunch of people in a room, and I asked everybody, raise your hand if you've got a smartphone. Everybody raised their hand, of course. Stupid question. And I said, keep your hand in the air if you have access to all your drawings for your building, all your as-built, all your equipment locations, all your emergency equipment locations when your team is standing on a roof. Every single person put their hand down. And I said, why not? Why not? Every single person on your team has a smartphone. Many teams that I talk to are getting little iPad minis, or they've got other mobile devices that their team is carrying around. That guy right here climbed up on that roof. He climbed up the ladder on the side of the building. He popped that roof hatch after climbing that ladder in that closet, and he's on the roof now. Can he access the information to do his job? Can he access the O&M for this? Can he access if he's over there and he's working on an air conditioning unit, does he know what filter size, what belt sizes go on that exhaust fan? He's up here. There's a ton of equipment up there. Before he climbs up on that roof, or even when he's on that roof, why wouldn't you want him to have all the access to the information to do his job? Ask yourself that. Can he access all of your information to do that person's job today? He's got a phone in his pocket. You know he does. He may have an iPad. But does he have access to your building information today? That's going to slow him down. Okay? That's what we're talking about here, is getting time back. But always keep critical information. Again, everybody's got a smartphone. Staff can act immediately when something's going sideways, when they can access your stuff on their phone. Information no longer exists in one person's head or two people's heads. And I really want to plant the seed in your head to think about, because this is critical in today's environment in facilities. How many of your facilities team are going to retire in the next 1 to 5 years? That's the second bullet point here. Those are the people who know where everything is in your building. They know all the historical changes, all those projects that you've had in your building. Okay, where most of the shutoffs are. Now they're leaving. What are you going to do? Why don't you have access to that information and get it out of that person's head and put it so that everybody can access it, wherever the heck they are? They're on the roof, they're at home, they get a call in the morning because a water leaked in your building. Security's on the phone with you. Why can't you roll out of bed, grab your phone, and access that information and tell them where the most recent shutoff is? If you can't, why not? The technology is there today. But critical information, again, is at everybody's fingertips, but you can also share that information out with first responders. You get that call in the middle of the night, you can text message the shutoff location or a floor plan to a first responder who's standing in the doorway before you even get out of bed. You don't have to roll out of bed, put your clothes back on, jump in your car, drive all the way back, 45 minutes, an hour, half hour, whatever. You can roll out of bed, grab your phone, and text message that to somebody who's standing in the doorway of your building. That's possible today. But you also collaborate directly with all of your trades. You can with your architect, everybody who's working on your active projects today. They need something, you can share that information out with them today. Stakeholders who have a vested interest in that project, all the different folks that on your facilities team, everybody's looking at the same stuff. That is available today. So let's take some questions here. I showed you different processes here through how you can access that information. So Ann, why don't you feed me a couple questions?
Sure, of course. Thank you, David, and thanks everyone for your attention and your questions. Yeah, we do have some time to go through some, so let's get going here. Let's see. So, David, you've talked about a lot of information as far as from construction, and then you went back into some talking about current building plans and kind of talking about a whole life cycle and a number of different ways about facilities. So I'll kind of start at the beginning based on a few of the questions that we've had that are similar, and that is, how do these documents get added? And let's keep on the construction topic for now, the construction aspect. How do these documents get added? And then, kind of what level of involvement does my facilities team need to have? Could you talk about that piece of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So our system, the ARC facility system, we manage all the documentation. Our system manages all the documentation. So the distribution list that you're added to, where you receive all the changes for the life of your project, are all just automatically added. So our team and software actually grabs that and uploads it. There's very, very minimal impact on you or your team. It's just you have access to it, and we work with your team to figure out who should have that level of access. But as far as your team having to do any of the work, it's virtually none.
Okay, thank you. So let's talk about active projects. And the question here is, I can have over 40 active projects, construction projects at any given time. So how many projects can this ARC facility system handle that you've been talking about? How does that get organized?
Unlimited. Yeah, unlimited. We've got some clients, many of our hospital clients have multiple hospital locations in even multiple states, and they'll have, 50, 100 in some cases, different projects, all different sizes. And it's unlimited number of projects. It's very easy. We're scaled to be able to handle unlimited number of projects with our software and our team. So the number of projects isn't an issue whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to back up, stay at the beginning of the process here for a bit. And the question is, if we choose to use technology such as this, how long does it take for a system to be operational? Now, I'm going to assume, of course, as we talked about briefly here, it's different types of kind of amounts of projects going on, different types of data. So could you just kind of give a general idea of how long that takes?
Yeah, traditionally, once we're added to a project distribution, you're talking up and running where you have full access to the current documents. And then again, as the documents change, they're constantly being updated. But you're up and running within a week to 2 weeks for any given project to start. And then through the duration of the project, those changes that happen during the project are typically updated within 24 to 48 hours, depending on the size of the update. I mean, if you've got a 400-page set and you're updating, the entire set, it's easy for it to be swapped out. You're talking days. You're not talking weeks.
Okay, great. Thank you. So kind of moving through the process here, we have a question that is talking about, adding information, when just what we're talking about here, when things get modified. So the question, I'm going to read it verbatim and then we'll go from there. It says, are there different layers created when staff adds things such as shutoffs? Assume original project drawings can be retained without the added markup. So they're asking, can those original, versions, I guess, be retained without the markups?
Yeah, and again, there's two different views in which you can view the projects. And in our system, you can actually have a list view that lists the project, every single project you've got building to building. So think of that as a list of dates on the left-hand side, and next to it, you've got each project name. So you've got that view. That's view number one, say. We call that the list view. But then that overlay view is where we show where every drawing touched. And those are separated out by floor. So the original drawings, to answer your question with regards to retaining those historical documents, yes, all of those are in the list view by the actual project, and you can see those unfiltered drawings that are those closeouts for that particular project. Every project's done that way. So you've got every project from the index is hyperlinked to each individual sheet, and then every detail call out that's on those sheets. Also, you click on a detail that hyperlinks to the actual detail sheet as well. So no more flipping through, 400-page sheet sets. You literally go to the index and click on any sheet you want, it jumps to the sheet. But again, that's the historical record for that particular drawing set, and every set's done that way.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification there. So a question also about entering and organizing drawings, so to speak. And the question is, what standards do you use to organize the drawings so that a scanning company can properly catalog the files? And I'm wondering if a scanning company is involved with this, since ARC does the work here, but can you clarify?
Yeah, our system actually, OCRs, we have patented software that actually does optical character recognition and reads the actual drawings. So think about optical character recognition for a minute. That means you could search inner document on a large format drawing. So if you've got a large format drawing, you can find things on that drawing sheet by doing a search. So the way our system works is we have roughly 160 service centers around the U.S. We pick up the drawings, all those historical drawings that you've got. So think about those plan rooms that you've got. And there's minimal impact on your team. You basically say it's all the drawings in this room. We pick them up, we back a truck up, pick them up, take them off site. You don't have to do anything. We organize all that information, name them what they're supposed to be. We also do create a discrepancy, obviously, if we see things that are not named and we're not exactly sure where they go, and then we work with the client to identify what those are. They're all automatically entered in the system and hyperlinked. They're all done, it's automatic. Once they're scanned and imported into the system, it's done automatically. Any future changes, most of those are going to come in digitally now. All of those are, again, ingested in the system, and new layers show up for every one of those changes that happens moving forward. But we do it all in-house. We're not outsourcing anything. The scanning, the software, all of it's done in-house.
Okay, great. Thank you. So then I have a question here that has to do with the closeout topic specifically. And
sure.
The question is, what is done with the project closeout documentation when the project is completed? I'm guessing that means the actual documentation per se.
Yeah.
So can you speak to that?
Certainly. And again, like I showed earlier, where you've got a closeout, you've got closeout packages, they're automatically migrated over into the system, and they're actually layered with the old stuff and the new stuff. So again, migrating the two together is very simple. You want that historical transparency to show all of the different changes that have happened on the building. And that's what I was saying before, where I've had conversations with architects and engineering firms where I show them that overlays showing where the renovations touch year over year, and their jaw hits the floor. They literally say, oh my gosh, you have no idea how much time that would have saved me on my hospital account or my manufacturing account or my school account, where they're just digging and digging and digging. I had one engineer at one of the big conferences a few weeks ago that told me they spent almost a month in a plan room going through thousands of rolls, thousands of them, and still didn't have all the drawing sets because they kept finding some more that were tucked away in a closet, or they were in somebody's office, and they found some of them up in a penthouse mechanical room that were tucked behind a huge AHU that was up there, and no one knew they were there. They just found them. Well, those are the most recent drawings. How'd they get up there? Well, the guy who put them up there had retired. So thank goodness they found them. But what we're talking about is all of those access to all that information is right there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So then
Sure.
we have time for a few more questions, and I'm going to
Okay.
jump on to, let's see here. I just want to keep on track here. Talking about, you
Yeah.
actually just mentioned showing the tool to architecture and engineering firms, and one of the questions here um, was around the fact of active documents when things are changing during construction. You showed a few kind of screenshots of that, of different change orders and things like that. To drill down to the question, it is what beyond the facility management and the owner side of it, do other parties normally have access to this, or how does that work in practice? Have you seen it work?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of different ways. One is the GC and the architects will typically it's the GC will have their own, whatever they're using. Some cases they don't have anything and they'll use what I showed. Other cases they'll use another system that they use in-house. But keep in mind, during projects, the owner is always on the distribution list. So it's an email distribution that says a change was received, or there's a new set of drawings, or whatever. They're added to that distribution. What happens in this case is we're just added to the distribution. So there's two different ways. It can be the GC can have access to this system, or they can keep using their regular system that they're using. But again, the owner typically doesn't have that type of exposure or has minimal exposure to the system. And again, it's not the GC's fault. They don't want to give full transparency exposure all the time. But at the end of the day, what this now gives is puts some of that control back into the owner's hands. So now the owner can see everything that's changing through the duration of that project. And now they also have, again, it's a living, breathing thing. So all the changes are immediately reflected within 24, 48 hours. All those updates are done. And now the owner, through that entire process, can see those drawings. So now at the end of the project, that closeout package is essentially being built. So think about it as this is a living, breathing, as-built closeout package, that's being built through the entire duration of that project. And then at the end, all the most recent drawings, all the most recent information for that project is being built, and now it's done. So all the final drawings are already there. You're not waiting weeks and weeks, months and months. It's all being built as the project's being built.
Okay, makes sense. So then you actually, as I just referred to, you had shown a few screenshots of the different pieces of the construction solution that ARC Facilities has. So actually a question did come in, so I want to make sure anyone who else is thinking of this question gets the answer. And it's, is there an actual demo of this construction solution that someone can access through you or one of your team members at ARC Facilities to be able to actually see the demo and kind of get a walkthrough? Is there a way for people to?
Absolutely. I would recommend you either call the number or email that email, solutions@arcfacilities.com, and we can schedule a one-on-one. Obviously I'm not going to get into the weeds on the webinar here, but we're more than happy to get in deep and show you every aspect of the closeout package. It's very simple. I'm a firm believer. I always say if it's not easy, the team won't use it. We built this purposely so that the team can use it, so that the design construction team can use it. Everybody who needs to have access to this can access it quickly, and I'm more than happy to show that in a demo.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, I think that is all the time we have for today. I just want to thank you again, David. Thanks again for your talk. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And of course, thank you all out in the audience for your attention and for your questions. And thank you to ARC Facilities for sponsoring the webinar. Please note, a recording from today's session will be made available on our magazine's website, facilityexecutive.com. You can also access it and a lot of this other information, of course, on the ARC Facilities website, and that's simply arcfacilities.com. You see it there on the screen. So thank you again, and have a great afternoon, everyone.